Right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to gather round, please. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for coming here today. It's the season of Yule, or Yule, as you call it, and you'll be pleased to know that in the Anglo-Saxon, English calendar, Yule lasts for 2 whole months, what you now call December and January. And so that's 2 months of feasting, eating, having good food, mead, ale and fine wine. And we like to be entertained by, well, among other things, telling stories and poetry. And only the other day, well, I was talking with a gentleman known as Stephen of Derby, and he grew up in Denmark. And he said, when he was 16 years old, he heard a folk tale. And at once I recognised it. And it begins over there in Denmark with a farmer. And this farmer, well, he'd never ventured out much like his father before him. He stayed at home, never ventured more than a few miles away from the place where he was born. He was quite content every day to go out, tend the crops in the fields, look after his animals. Never had any desire to travel the world or see anything more. And one day he was out there in the field with his scythe, and it was harvest time, and he was reaping a field of rye. And as he went along, he saw there beside him a big bird, a stork, and he didn't like the look of this stork at all. With its great long legs that it uses for wading, big wings, and a great long bill. He thought it was an evil looking thing. He kept hopping along and getting in the way, and after a while, well, he thought it might give him a nasty peck. And so he took out a knife, one he was very fond of. His grandfather had given him this knife, and he was so annoyed, he hurled it at the stork's head. And the stork hopped out of the way, looked at him, and picked it up in its beak, and promptly flew away. Now, the next day, the farmer, well, he began to feel very strange indeed. He couldn't stop thinking about travelling, about seeing other countries. And about a week later, he left his farm in the keeping of his friends and family, and took a ship, set sail, first of all, around the islands of Denmark, and then all around the coast of Jutland. And after that, he went to Sweden, with its great rivers and hundreds of miles of pine tree forests. He went to Norway with its craggy coastline of mountains and fjords. He came here to Anglo-land, home of the Anglo-Saxons, a green and pleasant place. He went to the land of the Scots. He saw the Welsh and journeyed to Ireland. And he even went across the Atlantic Ocean to Iceland with its glaciers and volcanoes, to Greenland where he saw a polar bear, and even Vinland on the far side of the Atlantic Ocean. And well, he went back down south, all around the Mediterranean, to Italy and to Greece, even into the Middle East. As King Harold Hardrada would have said, he saw the hills where God walked when he went to Jerusalem. And he went further, all the way to Baghdad, where the Muslim folk live in splendid cities with libraries and lighting in the streets. And well, he went down to Africa, the steaming jungles and hot deserts. And finally, one day, he ended up travelling along the River Nile in Egypt. And he came to a town not far away from some ancient tombs, pyramids, where there's a statue of a lion with a human head. And before too long, he found lodgings. And his host, well, who offered him hospitality for the night, let him stay in his house. Well, he was a man who had darker skin from further south in Africa, with flecks of white in his hair. And his host provided him with a good meal and good drink to wash it down. And then, when he'd eaten, his host asked him what had brought him there. "Do you know," said the farmer, "I've no idea. There I was in Denmark, minding my own business, and all of a sudden, I had this urge I just couldn't shake off to see the world. I've been travelling for years now, in all weathers. I've seen wondrous sights, but sometimes it's been miserable and lonely. I wish I could see my family again." And then he told his host about the stork, about the knife he'd thrown at it. And his host, he went into another part of the house and came back a moment later, holding the knife. "Would this be the one?" "You know," said his host, "when you threw that knife at me, I had half a mind to give you an injury. But, well, before that, I'd had a good few years living on your farm. In fact, I had 14 children there. And so, because of that, we'll consider the matter settled." And he gave the knife back to the farmer. And at once, that magical enchantment that had caused him to travel without cease, it ended completely. And all he wanted was to return home. But before he did, he had to meet the 14 children. And they were all fine-looking boys and girls. And he looked closely, but he couldn't see a single feather on any of them. And when he arrived home, it was Christmas time. Everyone was having their Yule feast. And he told them his tale. And everybody in the village where he lived, they listened to it. And some of them thought about it, and they said that men are men and storks are storks, and that's an end of it. But others said, well, sometimes men are not always men, and storks are not always storks. And this story is the proof of it. And as far as this story is concerned, we've come to the end. Thank you very much indeed for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Hail to the speaker, hail to those who listen. Thank you.
Roll call, my lord.
Thank you very much, Neil. And there's another one at 1 o'clock. Thank you.